Before I hung up the phone, I accidentally overheard my daughter talking to her husband, her voice bright and excited. "The old fool signed everything. We're finally getting out of debt." I sat frozen in the kitchen, the phone pressed to my ear as my own child discussed something that made my blood run cold. They didn't know I was listening. They didn't know the line was still connected. And that mistake would cost them everything. I'm truly grateful you're here with me. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? I love seeing how far this community reaches. A quick note, some elements in this story are dramatized for storytelling and educational purposes. Any similarities to real people or places are coincidental, but the message behind it is meaningful. I'm 68 years old, and I've built a lot of things in my life. Houses, bridges, a 40-year career, a family. But the hardest thing I ever had to build was a trap for my own daughter. And it started with a phone call I should have hung up. Friday evening, November 15th, 7:30. I tapped the FaceTime icon on my iPhone, still getting used to the damn thing after 40 years of preferring a pencil and paper. Jessica had set it up for me last Christmas. "It's easy, Dad," she'd said. "Just tap here." Her face filled the screen after 2 rings. 38 years old, my daughter. She had her mother's warm brown eyes and my stubborn jawline. "Hey, Dad, happy early birthday to you, too." She laughed. Her birthday was today. Mine wasn't for another month. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. How's your day been?" Busy. Brad's making dinner. I think he's burning something." She glanced off-screen, smiling. "Thanks for the flowers, by the way. Your mother always said yellow roses for November birthdays." I paused. "Oh, those papers you brought last week. The estate planning documents, I signed them. They're on my desk if you need to pick them up." Something flickered across her face. Too fast to read. "Great, thanks, Dad. I'll grab them this weekend." "So no rush, just wanted you to know." A clatter in her background. "I should go, dinner's about to be a disaster." "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, honey." She reached toward the screen. I thought I tapped the red button. My thumb hit glass. The image shrank. I set the phone on the arm of Margaret's old recliner and stood to stretch. That's when I heard her voice again, but she wasn't talking to me. "The old fool signed everything." Jessica's voice came through the speaker, bright with something that wasn't affection. "We're golden. Next week we get him into Shady Pines, sell this house, and boom, 1.2 million in our pockets." I froze. My hand found the chair arm gripping until my knuckles went white. A man's voice. "Brad, my son-in-law." "You're sure he didn't read them?" "Dad doesn't read anything I give him. He trusts me." She laughed. Actually laughed. "The lawyer's ready. We file the guardianship petition Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, he'll be in the nursing home, and we'll be free." "Your mom would be proud." Brad's voice carried a grin. "Finally getting out from under that debt. Dad built this house 30 years ago. Told me 1,000 times it'd be mine someday." Another laugh, colder. "Guess someday came early." I don't remember sitting back down, but I was in Margaret's chair, phone still on the armrest, their voices still coming through clear. I should have confronted them right then, but I'm an engineer. We don't react, we calculate. When the call finally ended, I sat in silence. The house settled around me, the creak of oak floorboards, the tick of radiator pipes, the soft groan of the foundation. 40 years of sounds I'd been listening to. Every bit of it I'd built myself. Poured the foundation, ran every electrical line, chose every fixture. This wasn't just a house. It was proof I'd done something right. Something solid that would last. Margaret and I had raised Jessica here. I could still see her at 7 asking me to explain how bridges stay up. At 12 winning the science fair with a project on structural engineering. At 20, standing in this living room in her wedding dress. "You look just like your mother," I'd told her. Somewhere between that morning and tonight, something had broken. I looked around. Margaret's chair. Our wedding photo on the mantel, 1984. The framed blueprints of this house on the wall, the ones I'd stayed up until 3 a.m., perfecting because I wanted every angle right. I taught her how to read blueprints. I said aloud to the empty room. To Margaret, maybe. Now she's drawing up plans to lock me away. 72 hours. That's what I had. Monday morning, she'd file the paperwork. By Monday afternoon, if she succeeded, I'd be in Shady Pines with no legal right to my own house, my own accounts, my own life. I picked up the phone, scrolled to a name I'd had for 40 years, Frank Miller. Retired detective best friend since we'd worked a construction site investigation in '85. But I paused. My engineer's brain was already working running calculations, checking the load-bearing points of this situation. Jessica had made a mistake, a big one. She'd assumed I was helpless, that I'd sign whatever she put in front of me and shuffle off wherever she sent me while she cashed out decades of my work. She'd forgotten something important. I've spent 50 years solving problems, calculating stress points, finding weak spots in a structure before it fails. And when something's about to collapse, I know how to shore it up or how to bring it down in a controlled demolition. I'm 68. My hands aren't as steady as they used to be, but my mind still sharp. Sharp enough to read the blueprints of my daughter's scheme. Sharp enough to find every weak point, every miscalculation, every angle she's gotten wrong. I walked to my study, picked up the folder of documents I'd signed without reading, flipped through pages of legal language I'd trusted because she was my daughter. Durable power of attorney. Advanced healthcare directive. I should have read them. But you're supposed to be able to trust your daughter. I set the papers down. 72 hours until she files Monday morning. 72 hours to build something she won't see coming. I'm a civil engineer. We don't panic. We assess. We calculate. We build. And in the next 72 hours, I was going to build a trap that would teach my daughter the most important lesson I'd apparently failed to teach her. Never underestimate the man who taught you how to read blueprints, because he can read yours too. The first hour I didn't move from Margaret's chair. I just sat there with the phone in my hand, replaying the recording. iPhones save audio automatically if a call doesn't disconnect properly, something about the system treating it like voicemail. I'd never known that until tonight. I listened 3 times. Each time I hoped I'd hear something different. But Jessica's voice came through clear. The old fool signed everything. By the 3rd replay, I'd moved past hoping. I started analyzing instead, breaking it down the way I used to break down structural problems on a job site. Estate planning documents. That's what she'd called them when she brought them over last Tuesday. Showed up around lunch with a folder, and that smile, the one that used to mean she'd aced a test. Just some standard stuff, Dad. Power of attorney healthcare directive, in case something happens. She'd been planning the something herself. I opened the folder on my desk. 6 pages neatly stapled. I'd signed the last page without reading the first 5. Why would I? She was my daughter. Page 1, durable power of attorney. Legal language I should have parsed, but didn't. Page 4, my signature blue ink, definitely mine. I recognized the way I still make the H in Hayes, too tall a habit from 40 years of signing blueprints. But the pages bothered me now. I held page 1 up to my desk lamp. The spacing between lines was tighter than page 4. The header, estate planning documents, was in a different typeface than the body text. She'd had me sign page 4. Then she'd attached different pages to the front. My signature was real. The document above it was not. I set the papers down carefully like they might explode. Shady Pines. Brad had said on that recording. The nursing home out past the county line. I'd read about it in the Oregonian last year's state investigation for financial exploitation of residents. The place had stayed open, though. Places like that always do. That's where she wanted to put me. Not because I needed care. Because she needed me out of the way. Monday morning, Jessica had said. We file the guardianship petition. I looked at the calendar on my desk. Today was Friday. That gave me 72 hours. The house creaked around me. 10 o'clock at night, the temperature dropping outside the old timber frame adjusting. I'd heard these sounds for 3 decades. Tonight they sounded different, like the house was asking me what I was going to do. I thought about Margaret. 5 years gone this past March. Cancer took her fast, 6 months from diagnosis to the end. Jessica had come home those last 3 months, moved into the guest room, helped with medications and hospice visits. Back then, I'd thought she was being a good daughter. Now I wondered. Had she been practicing learning the system, figuring out how guardianship worked, so she'd know how to use it later? I played the recording a 4th time. "Yon 1.2 million in our pockets," Jessica's voice bright and eager. Finally getting out from under that debt. Brad's voice relieved. No, there wasn't another explanation. This was exactly what it looked like. I had 3 choices. First, confront them tomorrow. Show up at their house, play the recording, demand they stop. Problem, they'd know I knew. They'd change tactics, accelerate the timeline. I'd lose the element of surprise. Second, call the police tonight. Report attempted fraud. Problem, what fraud? I'd signed the documents. My signature was real, even if the pages were switched. The recording might not hold up. I didn't have enough evidence yet. Third, do what I'd spent 50 years doing. Assess the problem. Design a solution. Build it carefully, step by step, until it's strong enough to hold weight. I'd designed hundreds of structures in my career. Buildings, bridges, retaining walls. Each one started the same way. Understand the load. Calculate the stress points. Find the materials that could handle the pressure. This would be the same. Except the structure I was building wasn't made of concrete and steel. It was made of evidence, and strategy, and time. 72 hours until Monday morning. 72 hours to become the kind of father I'd never thought I'd have to be. The kind who fights back. I picked up my phone. Scrolled through contacts to a name I'd known longer than I'd been married, Frank Miller. Frank and I went back to 1985, a construction site investigation, where he'd been the detective, and I'd been the engineer, proving the contractor had cut corners on the rebar. We'd become friends over bad coffee and technical drawings. He'd retired from Portland PD 8 years ago, but we still met for lunch once a month. If anyone could help me think through this mess, it was Frank. The phone rang twice before he picked up. Walt. His voice was rough alert despite the late hour. It's 10 at night. What's wrong? I looked at the papers on my desk. At the phone with the recording still saved. At the living room where I'd sat and listened to my daughter plan my destruction. I need you to come over, I said. Now, tonight. Walt, what happened? I closed my eyes. Tried to find words for something I still couldn't quite believe. My daughter's trying to destroy me, I finally said. Not with a weapon, with paperwork. And I've got 72 hours to stop her. There was a pause. Then Frank's voice came back steady and certain. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Frank's truck pulled into my driveway at 11:03. The headlights cut across the living room, and I heard the familiar diesel rattle of his old Ford, the same truck he'd been driving since retirement. He was at my door before I could open it. Walt. Frank Miller looked the same as always, 70 years old, tall and lean, gray hair, cut military short eyes that still had that cop's way of seeing everything at once. Show me. No small talk. That was Frank. I handed him my phone with the recording queued up. He listened without speaking, standing in the middle of my living room. When it finished, he was quiet for 30 seconds. This is elder abuse. he finally said. Organized, premeditated. They've been planning this for months, Walt. Months. Nobody puts together a guardianship petition over a weekend. There's lawyer consultations, medical evaluations, financial documentation. He handed the phone back. Show me the papers. I gave him the folder. Frank pulled reading glasses from his jacket and spread the documents on my kitchen table. He examined each page the way he used to examine evidence at crime scenes. Methodical, thorough. Your signature's real, he said, pointing to page 4. But look at page 2. The text sits differently on the page. Whoever did this scanned your signature page, then printed the other pages separately and bound them together. Same paper stock, but different laser printer dots. I'd noticed the font was off. Frank saw the machinery behind it. Can we prove that? In court, with a forensic document examiner, yes, but that takes time we don't have. Frank set the papers down. You said they're filing Monday morning. 9 a.m. That's what Jessica said. Then by Monday afternoon, if the judge signs off, you lose control of your finances, your property, your medical decisions, everything. Frank sat and gestured for me to do the same. We've got 72 hours. We can't stop them from filing, but we can build a case that destroys them the moment they try. How? We need 3 things. Frank ticked them off. 1 solid proof of forgery. 2 evidence of their financial motive. Why now 3 someone on the inside who can tell us what they're planning. I thought about that. Brad's in real estate. Maybe there's money trouble. I'll dig into that tomorrow. County records, business filings, credit checks. If he's drowning, we'll find out. Frank leaned back. But the inside source is trickier. Do they have anyone close who'd help us? Tyler. The thought came immediately. My grandson, I said. Tyler. He's 16. Smart kid, wants to study engineering. He comes over most weekends to work on science projects. Jessica's son. Yeah, I hesitated. He's a good kid, Frank, but he's still their kid. Which makes him either your best asset or your biggest risk. Frank's eyes were steady. 16 is old enough to understand loyalty. Question is, where does his lie? I thought about Tyler. Last Saturday, he'd been here for 4 hours building a model bridge for his physics class. We'd talked about load distribution tension compression. He'd stayed for dinner frozen pizza because I still couldn't cook worth a damn. I think he'd help, I said. If I asked, you think. But you don't know. Frank stood, walked to the window. We call him in, and he tells his parents this whole thing accelerates. They file tomorrow instead of Monday. We lose our window. So what do? We test him. You call, ask him over Saturday afternoon. Something normal, homework, help, project work, whatever you usually do. You feel him out. See if he's noticed anything strange at home. Frank turned back. You don't tell him what's happening. Not yet. You just assess. Assess, engineering word. Frank knew how to talk to me. I walked to the kitchen window, looked out at the backyard. Margaret's garden was still there, overgrown now, but I couldn't bring myself to tear it out. Roses, lavender, tomatoes every summer. I could still see her out there in a wide-brimmed hat, pruning shears in hand. Jessica had helped her plant those rose bushes, had watered them every evening that summer. Now I wondered if that girl, the one who'd knelt in the dirt next to her mother, was still in there somewhere. Margaret died 5 years ago. I said, still looking at the garden. Cancer. Jessica came home those last 3 months, moved into the guest room, helped with everything, medications, hospice care. She was there when Margaret passed. I remember. I came to the funeral. She seemed so genuine, Frank, so loving. My voice caught. I thought she was being a good daughter. She might have been, then. Or maybe she was learning the system. Power of attorney medical directives. Maybe she was training for this. Frank didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was gentler. People change, Walt. Or maybe we just finally see what was always there. I turned back. I need to know which one Jessica is. The daughter who planted roses with her mother, or the woman trying to steal her mother's house. We'll find out. Frank checked his watch. It's almost midnight. You need sleep. Tomorrow morning, I start digging into Brad Morrison Financial's business records court filings. You called Tyler, set up a meeting for Saturday afternoon. Casual, normal, and Walt don't mention his parents at all. I nodded. Understood. Frank headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. If Tyler's not on our side, if he tells them we're out of options, they'll file for emergency guardianship. We'll lose. I know. So make sure you're right about that, kid. After Frank left, I stood in the living room for a long time. The house settled around me, those familiar creaks and groans. I was about to bet everything on a 16-year-old boy's loyalty. A boy I loved, but whose parents were planning to destroy me. Either Tyler would help me survive this, or he'd be the one who finished me off. Saturday morning, I woke at 6, earlier than I had in months. Couldn't sleep knowing Frank was out there digging while I sat waiting. I made coffee, checked my phone every 10 minutes. Finally at noon, Frank called. Now, Walt, I've got what we need. His voice had that flat tone he used when he'd cracked a case. Brad Morrison is drowning. How bad? Bad enough to do something desperate. I heard papers shuffling. Brad's got credit card debt, $124,000 across 6 cards. Business loans from a failed real estate venture, $723,000. Total debt, $847,000. I set my coffee cup down carefully. Nearly $1 million. His income, $68,000 a year. Mid-level real estate agent. There's no way he's servicing that debt load. He's been robbing Peter to pay Paul for at least 2 years. And so selling my house, $1.2 million. That clears his debt and gives them $350,000 to start over. Frank paused. That's not even the worst part. There's worse. I called a contact at the FBI, asked him to run Brad Morrison through their databases. 2019 Brad was investigated for real estate fraud, specifically targeting elderly homeowners, convincing them to sell below market value, then flipping properties for profit. 3 complaints. The investigation went nowhere, but Walt, the pattern's there. This isn't the first time Brad's thought about exploiting someone older. My hand tightened on the phone. He's done this before. He's tried. This time he married into the perfect target. After Frank hung up, I looked at the text I'd sent Tyler an hour earlier. You free this afternoon? Want to show you an interesting physics problem. Tyler had responded immediately. Yes, I'll bike over around 1. Told Mom I'm staying at Jake's house this weekend. That last line. Told Mom I'm staying at Jake's house. Tyler had lied to his mother about where he was going, without me even suggesting it. Maybe that was normal teenage behavior. Or maybe Tyler had reasons to avoid telling Jessica where he'd really be. I walked through the house while I waited. Not aimlessly, deliberately. Room by room, memory by memory. The living room walls, red brick laid by hand over 3 summers in the 90s. Jessica had been 10, 11, 12 during those summers. She'd handed me bricks, asked questions about mortar ratios. The staircase, solid oak, 3 coats of varnish I'd applied on my knees. Margaret picked the color. Jessica used to slide down the banister until she decided she was too old. The kitchen remodeled in '87 when Margaret was pregnant with Jessica. I'd knocked out the wall myself, installed the cabinets, tiled the floor. This house wasn't just property. It wasn't just an asset worth $1.2 million. It was 30 years of my labor. 40 years of my marriage. Every memory of the woman I'd loved and the daughter I'd raised. If Jessica thought I'd hand it over without a fight, She'd fundamentally misunderstood her father. At 12:40, I saw movement through the front window. A figure on a bicycle pedaling up my driveway. Tyler. I opened the door before he could knock. "Hey, Grandpa!" He smiled, that easy teenage smile that hadn't learned to hide things yet. He was 16, all elbows and knees, wearing a t-shirt with some band I didn't recognize, and jeans with fashionable holes in the knees. He had glasses like I'd worn at his age. Same dark hair, same narrow face. Looking at him was like looking at myself 40 years ago. "Hey kiddo, come on in." He leaned his bike against the porch railing and followed me inside. "So what's the physics problem?" Tyler dropped his backpack by the door, interested. He was a good student. Loved science the way I had at his age. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something else first." I gestured to the couch. "Sit down for a minute. Something in my voice must have changed." Tyler's smile faded. He sat suddenly cautious. 16 years old and already learning to read the room. This was it. The moment Frank had warned me about. I was about to test my grandson's loyalty. Find out if he'd help me survive or if he'd run straight back to his parents and tell them everything. If I was wrong about Tyler, if he chose them over me, this whole plan collapsed. Jessica and Brad would accelerate their timeline, file for emergency guardianship, claim I was paranoid, delusional, a danger to myself. By Monday afternoon, I'd be in Shady Pines, and this house would be listed for sale. But if I was right about Tyler, Grandpa, Tyler's voice was uncertain. "Is everything okay?" I looked at this boy, this young man, who shared my face and my love for how things worked. Who came to my house on weekends because he wanted to, not because his parents made him. Who'd lied to his mother this morning about where he was going. "I need to ask you something," I said. "And I need you to tell me the truth, even if it's hard." "Can you do that?" Tyler nodded slowly. His eyes behind those glasses were scared now. Smart kid. He knew something was wrong. "Have you noticed anything strange at home lately? Your parents acting different, talking about things when they think you're not listening." And just like that, Tyler's face changed. He knew something. I thought the hard part would be hearing my daughter plot against me. Turns out the hard part is sitting across from my 16-year-old grandson, wondering if I'm about to ruin his life by telling him the truth. "Grandpa, can I ask you something about physics?" Tyler leans forward, elbows on his knees, exactly the way I used to sit when I was drafting bridge plans at the kitchen table. "My teacher says Newton's first law is just about inertia, but isn't it really about resistance to change?" I blink. For a moment, I forget about the forged documents, the nursing home, the 72-hour countdown. This is what I miss most about Margaret. She used to say I came alive when someone asked me to explain how the world worked. You're smarter than your teacher," I tell him. "Newton's first law isn't just physics. It's philosophy. An object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. That's not just about motion, it's about systems. About equilibrium. You know what equilibrium means?" Tyler nods, eyes bright. "Balance!" "Right. And you know what breaks equilibrium? Force. External force." I correct. Something from outside the system. Like. I pause, choosing my words carefully. Like when someone tries to move you out of your own house. Tyler's face changes. The brightness fades. He glances at the front door, then back at me. We talk for 30 minutes. I walk him through all three laws: inertia, acceleration, action, and reaction. He asks good questions. He reminds me of myself at that age, hungry for answers, impatient with vague explanations. When we finish, I pour him a glass of water and sit back down. "So," I say, keeping my voice light. "How's school? How's your mom?" Tyler takes a long drink, sets the glass down carefully, centering it on the coaster. "She's been asking me weird questions. What kind of questions? About you. He won't meet my eyes. Like, do you forget things a lot? Do you repeat yourself? Do you ever get confused about what day it is? My chest tightens, but I keep my face neutral. And what do you tell her? I told her no, because it's true. You don't forget anything. He looks up now, frustrated. But she keeps asking. And last week she told me I should start writing things down. Like if you ever do forget something, I should make a note of it. For your health, she said. I nod slowly. Did she say why? She said it's normal for people your age, that we need to keep track just in case. Tyler's hands twist together. But Grandpa, you're not sick. You remember everything. You remember the exact date you poured the foundation for this house. You remember Mom's middle school teachers. You even remember the name of that dog we had when I was 5. Pesca, I say quietly. Yeah, Biscuit. Tyler's voice cracks a little. So why is she acting like you're losing your mind? I stand up, walk to the shelf, where I keep my old tape recorder, the one I used for site inspections back in the 80s. I've transferred the audio from my phone to this device, old school, harder to trace. I press play. Jessica's voice fills the room. Cold, calculated. The guardianship petition goes in Monday morning. Once the judge sees the medical records, it's done. We move him to Shady Pines, sell the house, clear the debt. 48 hours, Brad. 48 hours, and we're free. I watch Tyler's face go pale. He stares at the recorder like it's a weapon. That's Mom. I know. She's talking about putting you in a home, selling this house. I know. Tyler stands up so fast his chair scrapes backward. That's insane. You don't need a nursing home. You don't need a guardian. This is... He stops breathing hard. This is fraud. This is lying. Yes, I say, it is. He turns to me and I see at the exact moment the pieces click together in his head. The questions. The notebook. She wanted me to lie about you. She wanted me to make up stories about you being confused. My fabricated evidence. I confirm. If I ever end up in court, she'll pull out that notebook. She'll put you on the stand and ask you to testify that I'm mentally incompetent. Tyler's hands ball into fists. I won't do it. I know you won't. I walk over, put a hand on his shoulder. But I need more than that, Tyler. I need your help. He looks at me wary now. What kind of help? I reach into my pocket and pull out an old flip phone. The kind nobody uses anymore. The kind that doesn't connect to the family plan, doesn't show up on anyone's account. I bought it this morning with cash. Steve, I need you to be my eyes and ears, I say. Your parents talk when you're around. They think you're just a kid, so they don't watch what they say. I need you to record those conversations. I need you to send them to me. Tyler takes the phone, turns it over in his hands. You want me to spy on my own parents. I want you to help me protect myself. I keep my voice steady even though my heart is hammering. Tyler, I built this house with my own hands. I raised your mother in this house. I took care of your grandmother in this house until the day she passed. This isn't just property, it's my life. And they're trying to take it. Not because I'm sick, not because I need help, because they're in debt and they see me as a solution. He's quiet for a long time. Then, what if they find the phone? Try hide it. Keep it off unless you're recording. Send the files to this email address. I hand him a slip of paper. Delete them right after. Don't text me, don't call, just the recordings. What if I get caught? You won't, I lie. And if you do, I'll take the blame. I'll say I forced you. He looks at me, and I see fear in his eyes, but I also see something else. Determination. The same stubborn set to his jaw that Margaret used to have when she decided something was worth fighting for. Okay, he says, I'll do it. At 4 o'clock, Tyler gets on his bike and rides home. I watch him disappear down the street, and for the first time in 2 days, I feel something close to hope and something close to shame. I've just turned my grandson into a spy. I've asked a 16-year-old to lie to his parents to sneak around to risk his safety for my sake. Margaret would have hated this. She always said families should protect each other, not manipulate each other. But then again, Margaret never had to fight her own daughter. At 4:15, my phone rings. Frank. "I've found what you need," he says. "Come to my house tonight, 7 o'clock, and Walter, bring a strong stomach. What I dug up on Brad is worse than we thought." I hang up and stare at the recorder still sitting on the coffee table. Newton's third law: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Jessica pushed. Now I'm pushing back. Frank's living room smells like old coffee and printer ink. When I walk in at 7 o'clock sharp, he's already at the dining table, papers spread out like evidence at a crime scene. "Close the door, Walt," he says. "You're gonna want to sit down for this." I close the door. I don't sit. "What did you find?" Frank finally meets my eyes. In 40 years of friendship, I've seen him deliver bad news before. But tonight, he looks angry. "Walt," he says slowly, "Jessica didn't just forge financial documents. She forged your medical records." The room tilts. I reach for the back of a chair. Frank slides a folder across the table. 6 appointments. March through November. All under your name. All at different clinics around Portland. I open the folder and start reading. March, a memory clinic report, claiming I was confused and forgetful. May, neurology, saying I seemed disoriented, had trouble with time and directions. July, psychiatry, warning about early dementia. September and October show worsening cognitive decline. November, 2 weeks ago, a Dr. Patricia Brennan recommends immediate assisted living placement. I read through all 6 pages, my hands shaking. I've never been to any of these places. I know. Frank leans forward. She used the forged power of attorney. Called these clinics, pretended to be calling on your behalf, said you were too confused to come in. They did phone consultations, documented everything, billed Medicare. They never met you. Just took her word for it. I sit down because my legs won't hold me. All 6 calls came from Jessica's cell phone, Frank says. But the records list you as the patient. In court, the judge will see 6 months of documented decline. 6 doctors saying Walter Hayes is losing his mind. I close the folder. She built a fake medical history, step by step. Architecture, Frank says bitterly. You taught her how to plan long term. I stand. I need to go home. By the time I pull into my driveway, it's 8:15. I go straight to the side yard, to the green trash bin. Tomorrow's Sunday pickup isn't until Monday. I flip the lid and dig through the garbage. Fast food wrappers, junk mail. Then 6 white envelopes barely crumpled. Appointment reminder cards. All addressed to me. Memory clinic. March 15th. Neurology, May 8th. Psychiatry, July 20th. Every single fake appointment. She intercepted them from the mailbox before I ever saw them. I carry them inside and spread them on the kitchen table. They're in good condition. She kept them neat, only threw them out this week because the plan was almost complete. I stare at the 6 cards and remember. 6 months ago, Jessica started calling more often, asking how I was feeling, saying things like, "Dad, you seem a little forgetful. Are you sure you're okay?" I thought she was being a good daughter. She was building a narrative. When I passed every test, remembered everything perfectly, she didn't give up. She just invented the symptoms herself. I push the cards aside and walk upstairs. Margaret's jewelry box sits on the dresser, a wooden box I built 30 years ago, inlaid with cherry and maple. I open it. Her pearl earrings, the silver bracelet, a tangle of necklaces, and an empty velvet slot where her wedding ring used to be. The memory hits sharp. Last summer, Jessica asked to borrow the ring, said she wanted it appraised for insurance. I handed it over without question. She never gave it back. I pull out my phone and search Portland pawn shops, wedding ring, 1.5 carats. 3 minutes later, I find it. Estate jewelry listing from Selwood. 1.5 carat diamond solitaire yellow gold sold July last year for $3,200. Jessica sold her mother's wedding ring. The ring I saved 6 months to buy in 1980. The ring Margaret wore every day for 40 years. She sold it over a year ago. I close the browser. I don't cry. I don't throw anything. I just stand in the bedroom that still faintly smells like Margaret's lavender lotion, and something inside me turns cold and sharp. This wasn't desperation. This was a blueprint. At 9 o'clock, I call Frank. We need a lawyer, tonight. Walt, it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. You owe someone a favor, don't you? Call them. I'll pay double. Frank sighs. Let me call Martin Blackwell, estate attorney. He owes me from a case in 2018. I'll tell him to clear his schedule. How fast can he move if I push tomorrow morning? Push him, I say. We've got less than 40 hours before that petition hits the courthouse. I want a plan in place before Monday sunrise. Frank's voice drops. What are you thinking? I look at the 6 appointment cards on my table. I think about Margaret's empty jewelry box. I think about my daughter's voice on that recording. 48 hours and we're free. I'm thinking that if Jessica wants to play architect, I'm going to show her what happens when you build on a rotten foundation. Frank is quiet. Then, I'll call Martin now. Be ready first thing tomorrow. I hang up and pour another cup of Folgers, the same coffee I've been drinking since 1975. I haven't slept more than 2 hours since Friday night. My body runs on adrenaline and caffeine, and something darker betrayal sharpened into a weapon. Jessica taught me something tonight. She taught me that love has limits, that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, that the person you raised can look at you and see dollar signs. But she made one mistake. She forgot I'm not just her father. I'm an engineer, and engineers don't build things that collapse under pressure. I drain the coffee, rinse the cup, and turn off the light. Upstairs, Margaret's jewelry box sits open. I close it gently, running my thumb over the cherry inlay. I'm sorry, I whisper. I should have kept it safe, but starting tomorrow, I'm going to protect what's left. I spend the next half hour at the kitchen table organizing every document Frank gave me. The fake medical records, the appointment reminder cards, the forged power of attorney. I spread them out in chronological order, March through November, like I'm laying out blueprints for a building inspection. At 9:45, the doorbell rings. The man on my porch is about 60, gray-haired, wearing a vest and tie, even though it's late on a Saturday night. He's carrying a leather briefcase that looks older than my truck. Mr. Hayes, he says, extending a hand. Martin Blackwell. Frank called me 2 hours ago and said I owed him. He was right. I shake his hand and let him in. Frank pulls up 30 seconds later, and the three of us sit at the kitchen table. Martin doesn't waste time. He opens his briefcase, pulls out a yellow legal pad, and looks me straight in the eye. Frank sent me your documents this afternoon, he says. What your daughter is doing this is textbook elder abuse. Forged financial documents, fabricated medical records, systematic fraud. The problem is, if she files that guardianship petition Monday morning, she'll have legal control over everything you own before you can fight back, including this house. So what do we do? I ask. Martin taps his pen on the legal pad. We take the house off the table, literally. He flips the pad around, so I can see the diagram. He's drawn a box labeled Irrevocable Living Trust with arrows pointing to my name, Tyler's name, and the house address. Here's how it works, Martin says. You transfer ownership of this house into an irrevocable trust. I become the trustee, the manager. Tyler becomes the beneficiary, the person who inherits when you pass. The house is no longer your legal property. You still live here, nothing changes day to day. But on paper, Jessica can't touch it. She can't sell it. She can't use it to pay her debts. Even if a judge grants her guardianship, she'll have zero control over this asset. I stare at the diagram. And she can't challenge it. She can try, Martin says. But irrevocable means irrevocable. Once you sign, even you can't undo it. That's the double-edged sword. It protects you from her, but it also means if something goes wrong, you can't take the house back. Frank leans forward. Walt, you understand what he's saying? You're betting everything on Tyler. I look at the diagram again. Tyler's name in the beneficiary box. A 16-year-old kid who could in theory decide his parents were right. Who could turn on me. Who could side with his mother and leave me with nothing. But I remember the look on his face when he heard that recording. The way his hands shook when he agreed to spy on his own parents. Tyler won't betray me, I say. That kid loves me for who I am, not for what I own. You're sure? Frank asks. I've spent 40 years betting on concrete and steel, I say. Tonight I'm betting on my grandson. Martin nods slowly. All right. Then let's do this. He pulls out a laptop and a portable printer from his briefcase. I'm going to draft the trust documents right now. We'll execute them tonight, and I'll file electronically with the state. Oregon's system runs 24/7. By Sunday morning, this trust will be active and recorded. How much is this going to cost me? I ask. Martin gives me a thin smile. More than my usual rate, Mr. Hayes. But Frank pulled in a favor I've owed him since 2018, so let's call it even. Consider this a public service. For the next hour and 15 minutes, Martin types on his laptop while Frank and I drink coffee. The portable printer spits out pages one by one. Martin explains each section: grantor trustee, beneficiary property description, successor provisions. It's dense legal language, but the core is simple. I'm giving up ownership to protect what I've built. At 11 o'clock, Martin slides the final document across the table. Sign here, here, and here, he says, pointing to 3 highlighted lines. I pick up the pen. My hand is steadier than I expected. Irrevocable Living Trust, executed November 16th, 2024. I sign my name 3 times. Martin witnesses it, then closes the folder. I'm filing this right now. He taps a few keys on his laptop. Done. The state will process it overnight. By 8 tomorrow morning, this house legally belongs to the trust. And when Jessica files her petition Monday, I ask. She'll discover the house is no longer yours, Martin says. She'll be furious. She'll try to challenge it. But there's nothing she can do. The trust is ironclad. Frank stands, stretches. When she gets angry, she'll make mistakes. Martin packs up his briefcase and shakes my hand. Mr. Hayes, I've seen a lot of ugly family situations in my career. This one's among the worst. But you've got a solid foundation now. Don't let her knock it down. After they leave, I walk to the back window and look out at the yard. The old swing set is still there, the one I built for Jessica when she was 5 years old. The wood is weathered now, the chain's rusty, but it's still standing. I pushed her on that swing 1,000 times. Every time she'd laugh and shout, "Higher, Daddy, push me higher." Now she's trying to push me. Not up, down. I turn away from the window and head upstairs. I'm running on fumes, 3 cups of coffee, and 2 hours of sleep in the last 48 hours. But I can't stop now. At 11:30, my phone buzzes. A text from Tyler. Grandpa, Mom, and Brad just talked in the kitchen. Mom said a doctor's coming to the house tomorrow morning to evaluate you. Brad said they need medical paperwork before they file Monday. Should I record it? I text back immediately. Yes, record everything. I set the phone down and sit on the edge of the bed. Tomorrow morning, a doctor coming here. An in-person evaluation to back up those 6 fake phone appointments. Jessica's tying up loose ends, but so am I. Frank shows up at 10 o'clock Sunday morning, looking like he just rolled out of a dumpster. His shirt's wrinkled, his hair's uncombed, and he's wearing jeans with a coffee stain on one knee. "What happened to you?" I ask. "Not all this," Frank says, gesturing at himself, "is what you're going to look like in about 4 hours. Confused, disorganized, a man who can't take care of himself." He walks past me into the living room and drops a canvas bag on the couch. "Walt, you need to understand something. That doctor's coming here this afternoon to certify you're incompetent. Jessica's paying her to do it. So you're going to give them exactly what they expect, but we're going to record every word." I sit down slowly. "You want me to act. I want you to survive." Frank pulls a wrinkled button-down shirt out of the bag. "Put this on. Misbutton it. Make it look like you got dressed in the dark." For the next 2 hours, Frank coaches me like a director prepping an actor for opening night. Costume, old shirt, buttoned wrong, loose jeans that bag around my ankles. Frank makes me tuck the shirt in crooked, so one side hangs lower than the other. Body language, slow movements, slight shuffle when I walk. Eyes that drift around the room like I'm searching for something I can't remember. Speech hesitate before answering, repeat questions back, and "What day is it?" at least 3 times during the conversation. Props leave a coffee cup half full on the counter. Forget to close the refrigerator door, misplace my glasses even though they're on top of my head. "Let's run it," Frank says, sitting down across from me. "I'm the doctor. You're Walter Hayes' confused old man." He clears his throat and switches into a formal tone. "Mr. Hayes, can you tell me what day it is today?" I pause, let my eyes wander to the window, then back to him. "Today, it's Saturday, isn't it? Or Sunday, I'm not entirely sure." "Good start," Frank says. "But slower. You're not drunk, you're confused. There's a difference. Drunk people slur. Confused people search for words." We practice for another hour. Frank fires questions at me. "What's your address? Who's the president? What did you eat for breakfast?" And I stumble through answers, mixing up details, asking him to repeat things. It feels humiliating. I'm a man who built bridges, who calculated load stress in my head, who never forgot a blueprint. Now I'm pretending to be too addled to remember my own street name. At 11:30, my phone buzzes. A text from Tyler. "Grandpa just heard Mom on the phone. She said, 'Dr. Brennan, you're coming at 2 o'clock, right? We need a certificate saying he's not competent. $5,000 like we agreed.'" I recorded it. I show the text to Frank. $5,000, he says quietly. "That's not a consultation fee. That's a bribe. And so now we have proof," I say. "Well, we have proof she's paying a doctor," Frank corrects. "But we need proof of what the doctor says when she gets here. That's where these come in." He opens his bag and pulls out 3 small devices. The first is a clock, an ordinary wall clock, the kind you'd find in any kitchen. Except Frank unscrews the back and shows me a tiny camera lens embedded in the face. "This goes on the wall behind where you'll be sitting," he says. "It'll capture everything from a wide angle." The second device is a picture frame, another hidden camera. "This goes on the bookshelf angled toward the couch where the doctor will sit." The third is a wireless microphone no bigger than a button. "Han, this goes in your shirt pocket. Clip it to the inside seam. It'll pick up every word anyone says within 15 feet. Frank spends the next 20 minutes installing the cameras and testing the mic. He shows me the feed on his phone, 2 clear video angles, crisp audio. Everything Jessica and the doctor say will be recorded. "Just one rule," Frank says. "Stay calm. Don't break character. Even if they say something that makes you want to explode, you keep playing the confused old man. We need them to hang themselves. At 1 o'clock, I go upstairs and put on the costume. Wrinkled shirt, misbuttoned, loose jeans. I look at myself in the bathroom mirror. I'm 68 years old. I've built hundreds of structures that are still standing across 3 states. I've taught engineering students, mentored young contractors, spent 40 years earning respect in my field. And now I'm standing in my own bathroom, dressed like a man who can't figure out which buttons match which holes, preparing to act incompetent, so my own daughter can't destroy me. Is this how a man's career ends? I stare at my reflection for a long moment. Then I think about Jessica's voice on that recording. Cold, calculated. 48 hours, and we're free. No, this isn't how my career ends. This is how I fight when everything else has failed. I head back downstairs. Frank's doing a final check on the cameras. Ready? He asks. I nod. At 1:45, a black Mercedes pulls up in front of the house. A tall woman steps out from the driver's side, blonde, probably late 50s, carrying a medical bag. She's wearing a blazer and slacks, the kind of outfit that says professional, but not too formal. The passenger door opens. Jessica. She and the doctor exchange a few words on the sidewalk, then start walking toward my front door. Frank steps into the kitchen, out of sight. The cameras are recording. The mic is live. I sit down in the living chair, adjust my crooked shirt, and take a deep breath. The doorbell rings. The show begins. I stand up slowly, shuffle to the door, and pull it open. Dr. Patricia Brennan is shorter than I expected, maybe 5'6", with dyed blonde hair pulled into a tight bun. She's wearing a navy blazer over a white blouse, carrying a leather medical bag that looks expensive. Her smile is professional, practiced. Behind her, Jessica stands on the porch step. Hands clasped together, face arranged into an expression of concern. Jessica says softly, stepping forward. This is Dr. Brennan. Remember I mentioned her last week? I scheduled a health checkup for you. I let my eyes drift between them, then back to Jessica, like I'm trying to place the memory. A doctor? Oh, I don't... Did you tell me? It's okay, Mr. Hayes. Dr. Brennan says, her voice smooth and reassuring. May I come in? I step aside, shuffle back toward the living room. They follow me in. Jessica closes the door behind them. Dr. Brennan sits on the couch, sets her bag beside her, and pulls out a clipboard. Jessica stays standing near the doorway, arms crossed, watching. Mr. Hayes. Dr. Brennan begins. Can you tell me what day it is today? I pause. Let my eyes wander to the window like I'm searching for the answer outside. Today, it's Saturday, isn't it? Or Sunday. She writes something on her clipboard. And do you remember my name? I look at her, squint a little. Your name is Doctor. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. More writing. Can you tell me your home address? I hesitate, then recite the street name correctly, but give the wrong house number off by 20. She doesn't correct me, just writes it down. Who's the current president, Mr. Hayes? I frown like I'm reaching deep into my memory. Oh, that's Obama, isn't it? Jessica shifts her weight near the door. I see her glance at Dr. Brennan, some unspoken signal passing between them. And how are you managing daily tasks? Dr. Brennan asks. Eating, bathing, that sort of thing. I shrug, let my voice trail off. Sometimes I forget to eat breakfast, or I can't remember if I already ate. Dr. Brennan nods sympathetically and makes another note. Jessica steps forward, now her voice thick with false worry. Doctor, he's getting worse every week. Last week he left the gas stove on all night. I came over the next morning and the whole house smelled like gas. I'm terrified something's going to happen. I keep my face blank, but inside I'm cataloging the lie. I don't have a gas stove. I installed an electric range in 1987 and haven't touched it since. Dr. Brennan looks up at Jessica, then back at me. Mr. Hayes, do you remember leaving the stove on I shake my head slowly. I don't think so. Maybe. He doesn't remember, Jessica says, her voice breaking a little. That's what scares me. Dr. Brennan closes her clipboard and stands. Mr. Hayes, I'd like to step outside with your daughter for just a moment. Will you be all right here? I nod, settle back into the chair, like an old man content to wait. They walk out onto the front porch. The door doesn't close all the way. There's a 2-inch gap. I can't see them, but I know the cameras are still recording. And the wireless mic Frank clipped near the door frame is close enough to pick up voices. I sit very still and listen. Jessica's voice quieter now, but still audible. Doctor, can you write a certificate saying he needs assisted living, something I can submit with the guardianship petition? Dr. Brennan's reply is cautious. I'd need to do a more thorough evaluation. These things take time. Had we agreed on $5,000? Jessica's tone sharpens. Here's $2,500 up front. There's a pause. I hear the faint crinkle of an envelope being opened. Then Dr. Brennan's voice lower, smoother. Oh. Well, in that case, I can certainly expedite the paperwork. I'll have a report written by this afternoon. Thank you, Jessica says. I knew I could count on you. Footsteps. The door swings open. Dr. Brennan steps back inside, her professional smile firmly in place. Mr. Hayes, she says, based on what I've observed today, I'm recommending that you be placed in an assisted living facility. You need 24-hour care. It's for your own safety. I let my face crumple a little, like I'm trying to process the words, but can't quite grasp them. Assisted living. What's that? It's a place where people can help you. Dad, Jessica says, moving to my side, resting a hand on my shoulder. A safe place. Dr. Brennan packs up her clipboard and extends a hand. Take care, Mr. Hayes. I shake her hand weakly. She leaves. Jessica stays. She crouches down in front of my chair, takes both my hands in hers. Her eyes are wet, actual tears, or a damn good imitation. Dad, she whispers. I'm so worried about you. I love you. You know that, right? I look at her, let my voice waver. You're a good daughter. She squeezes my hands, stands and walks to the door. I'll call you tonight, okay? I nod. The door closes. I hear her car start the engine fading down the street. I sit there for another 30 seconds just to be sure. Then I stand up, walk to the window, and watch her taillights disappear around the corner. Frank steps out from the back bedroom. She's gone, I say. Frank pulls out his phone, taps the screen, and holds it up. The video feed is crystal clear. Jessica and Dr. Brennan on the porch, the envelope passing between them, the doctor's voice cold and transactional. I can certainly expedite the paperwork. Frank rewinds it, plays it again. The audio is perfect. Every word. Walt. He says quietly, we got her. Bribery. Medical fraud. Criminal conspiracy. This is prosecutable. I pull off the wrinkled shirt, toss it onto the couch, and grab a clean one from the closet. The costume's over. I'm done pretending. Now we just wait for Monday morning, I say. Frank nods. You should try to get some sleep. I will, but I don't. At 8 o'clock that night, my phone buzzes. Another text from Tyler. Grandpa, Mom, and Brad just opened champagne. Mom said, we file at 9 tomorrow morning. By noon, the house is ours. Brad said, finally debt-free. They're laughing really loud. I recorded it. I read the message twice, then set the phone down on the kitchen table. Frank looks at me from across the room. You gonna be able to sleep tonight? I shake my head. No, but that's all right. Why's that? I look out the window at the dark street, the porch light casting long shadows across the yard. Because tomorrow, I say, my daughter's going to learn the last lesson I'll ever teach her. Never underestimate a man who's protecting what he loves. Frank doesn't say anything. He just nods, picks up his coffee cup, and drains the last of it. Outside, the night is quiet. Inside, I'm ready for war. Frank shows up at 6 o'clock with a canvas bag full of documents and a large sheet of poster board tucked under his arm. "Let's organize this," he says, spreading everything across my dining table. He arranges the evidence in rows, like an engineer laying out materials for a final inspection. 6 appointment reminder cards lined up chronologically. March, May, July, September, October, November. An 8-month blueprint of Jessica's plan. Next to them, the medical records from the phone consultations. Then Brad's financial statements, the original recording, the video of Dr. Brennan accepting the bribe, printouts of Tyler's 18 text messages, and the trust documents showing the house now belongs to Tyler. Frank unfolds the poster board and starts drawing a timeline in black marker. March 2024. Jessica begins creating fake medical records. July 2024. Margaret's wedding ring sold for $3,200. September 2024. Jessica asks Tyler to document Walter's confusion. November last week. Walter signs forged power of attorney. Sunday, Dr. Brennan bribed $2,500. Monday, tomorrow, guardianship petition filed. He taps the final entry. This is the roadmap. Every step planned. Every move calculated. I stare at the timeline. 8 months of architecture. My daughter didn't wake up one morning and decide to destroy me. She built this piece by piece the same way I taught her to approach any long-term project. At 7:30, Frank sets up his laptop and calls Martin Blackwell on video. Martin's face fills the screen. His office visible behind him, shelves of law books, framed degrees on the wall. "Gentlemen," Martin says, "I've reviewed everything you sent. Here's what we're looking at in terms of charges: elder abuse, financial fraud, forgery, medical identity theft, bribery of a medical professional, criminal conspiracy." He pauses, adjusts his glasses. If Jessica's convicted, she's facing 10 to 15 years in prison. Brad, as an accessory and co-conspirator, 7 to 10. Dr. Brennan will lose her medical license and serve at least 5 years. The numbers hang in the air. Frank leans back in his chair. "And the evidence is solid, airtight," Martin says. "Between the recordings, the financial trail, and the video of the bribe, this is prosecutable on every count." He looks directly at me through the screen. "Mr. Hayes, you've built a case that would make a district attorney weep with joy." I nod, but I don't feel victorious. I just feel tired. Martin ends the call. Frank closes the laptop and looks at me. "Walt," he says quietly, "you can still walk away from this. Take all of this to the police right now. Let them arrest Jessica and Brad tomorrow morning. You don't have to be there. You don't have to face her." I shake my head. "I need to look her in the eyes," I say. "I need her to see that I'm not some confused old man she can manipulate. I need her to know I fought back." Frank studies me for a moment, then nods. "All right. Then let's make sure we do this right." He picks up his phone and dials, puts it on speaker. A woman's voice answers. "Frank Miller. It's been a while." "Hello, Sarah," Frank says. "I need a favor." "Detective Sarah Patterson, Portland, PD Elder Abuse Division." Frank worked with her 15 years ago on a contractor fraud case. She's sharp, methodical, and she doesn't play games. Frank explains the situation, gives her the broad strokes. "The evidence, we have the plan for tomorrow." Quanchin. Sarah says slowly, "You're sure about this if we move too early, or if the evidence isn't as solid as you think they'll walk?" "I'm sure," Frank says. "Tomorrow morning, 9:30. Come to this address." We'll have everyone in one room, Jessica, Brad, the evidence, and Mr. Hayes. You can take it from there. There's a long pause. Then, I'll be there. And Frank, this better be as good as you say it is. It is. He hangs up. At 8 o'clock, my phone buzzes. Tyler's text, Grandpa, Mom, and Brad just opened champagne. Mom said, "We file at 9 tomorrow morning. By noon, the house is ours." Brad said, "Finally debt-free." They're laughing really loud. I recorded it. I show the text to Frank. He reads it, sets the phone down, and shakes his head. "They think they've already won," he says. "Let them